to look at your past fondly and be free of bitterness. I am sure that in both mine and your life, dear viewer, we have felt bitterness in response to a failed relationship, whether that be a familial relationship, romantic, or friendship. So in this video, I will help you release the burden of the weight on your shoulders, your chest, or your back that resulted from a failed relationship. Like everything else, this is simply perception. And because it is perception, that means it is something that can be taught. It is not something you are born with, which means after watching this video, you will have learned to do this. Having said this, we must first establish and acknowledge how you currently view particular relationships you had in your past that have failed to follow through into your present or future. There are undoubtedly times when the mention of certain people who we are no longer associated with, perhaps for good reason, evoke a certain reaction out of us when a certain memory in relation to them is suddenly brought to our attention. This could be the sudden mention of their name, or when you're going through Snapchat memories, or perhaps when you're going through your photos or galleries. The key to unlock and free yourself of this burden is, ironically enough, I'm sorry to say, to think about them. You see, people overall, with no exception until they see this video, determine everything by how it ends. You can observe this truth everywhere. In musical performances, for example, the prime spot is at the very end because that is what people will leave thinking about. At the end of a book, movie, or television series, if the ending is bad, that somehow becomes the only thing you can talk about, or will be talked about, at the very least, in every conversation you have about said book, series, or movie. Take Game of Thrones, for example. And people do not enter into a conversation about Game of Thrones without talking about the terrible ending. You even see this in food. If the aftertaste is bad, well, the whole food becomes harder for you to stomach. Most particularly and most importantly, people do this with their lives and their experiences, whether it be in a former job or academic life or people they used to know. And your heightened emotions about the ending, perhaps because the ending evoked the greatest influx of emotion out of you, and or because it is the last memory. You falsely understand it to be the only memory. It is no longer what it is, which is merely the last experience with said person. It has now become the only experience. This is how bitterness manifests. And with bitterness comes Fraulines. Remember my video, How to Look Good? It applies to both men and women. It makes no difference if you lie and sleep on your back to avoid lines on your face. If you're bitter, the lines will appear nonetheless. I'll give you a personal anecdote. A brief story time. I had a friend a while back, and it was through this friend that I came to this realization quite some time ago. You see, this friend was, without a doubt, the funniest friend I've ever had. The friendship was filled to the brim, overflowing with the sound of giggles. I mean, not a day would go by without us laughing, and there is no greater pastime than laughter. So you can imagine my disappointment when this friend displayed certain behaviors which would effectively immediately revoke a person from having the title of Seeped in Serenity's friend. I want you to ingrain this motto in your minds that I live by. Measure twice, cut once. Colloquially, this means no spinning the block. There is no going back to people because you measure twice. You make sure you are certain, and then you cut once, and you move onwards. Once you understand this, meaning once you have standards, because you utilize the appropriate amount of pride, otherwise known as dignity, it becomes very easy to look at your past fondly. As a result, when invariably a memory is triggered of a person you no longer have a relationship with, you will be able to reminisce and say, oh, I remember that day with so-and-so, and it was so funny when they said this, and so forth. Because upon thinking those happy thoughts that you, although begrudgingly, can't help but smile at the memory of, you will stop your thought right there. Control is key. Do not be so weak to think you cannot control your very own thoughts. You stop the thought right there because it is the continuation of thought that leads to bitterness and resentment and Fraulines. If you won't take my word for it, take Alan Watts. A person who thinks all the time has nothing to do but think about thoughts. Thoughts must be contained. It is because you control and contain your thoughts that your emotions are regulated and you don't act like a fool. Lack of control is called an outburst. This may appear to you to be theoretical but not practical. I'm living proof over here. And living proof can assure you that once you have firm boundaries by measuring twice and cutting once, this is a slice of cake. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Capiche? The art of seeing things as they are makes its introduction here. Let's take this used-to-be friend of mine, for example. This is a seasonal friend. You enjoy the experience of them while they are alive, while your friendship is alive. But once it dies, you come to terms with it because it is like it is. It just so happens to be an unwavering, universal truth. Hey, I'd love to laugh every day, like back in the day. but not at the expense of my dignity. The price is too steep. My pride for a couple laughs? Sounds like a ripoff. I just can't afford it. This is not something to be disheartened by, because another unwavering truth that acts as a remedy to the prior unwavering truth is that new things bloom in the place of old. Do the flowers not wither and then bloom once more? In that same way, better people will come. A better job will come. Better days are to come. I should like to emphasize that this piece of wisdom is for your own use. My meaning there being, it will not work without the implementation of measure twice and cut once. This, by all means, is not something you go and express to another person. It is not by my advice you will now go to a person from your past and say anything like this. Oh, with this newfound wisdom of mine, I would like to now tell you that I no longer feel bitterness and resentment. No. If you foolishly decide to do this, it will be out of your own volition and not by my advice. This is for you and you alone, my love, so that your memories sit better in your mind, so they won't stir and conjure up bitter emotions. It is perfectly fine, and at times most advised, to keep things to yourself, for your own sake alone. Like everything else in life, the implementation of this won't just have one effect, but void of the burden of ill-remembered memories, you will feel much freer as your burdens are lighter, and you will begin to take a newfound appreciation for everything in life, because you will have finally started to look at it accurately, finding the good from even within the bad, but at the very least, seeing it like it is, good despite the bad.